Welcome, everybody. This is the Mason County Commission's briefing for Monday, June 21st, 2021. We're going to be doing an interview for the Planning Advisory Commission. The person that we will be interviewing is Bob Wilkerson. I will start with the questions once we get them online. Commissioner Trask, if you wouldn't mind doing second, and Commissioner Schutte doing question 3, and we'll go down the line that way.
Good morning.
Good morning. Is this Bob?
Yes, it is.
Hi, Bob. This is Mackenzie from the Mason County Commissioner's Office. How are you this morning?
Good.
Good. So I have the commissioners here for your interview.
Okay, appreciate that.
Oh, no problem.
So, Bob, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
So welcome, first of all, and thank you for applying. We're going to be asking you a series of questions. There is no right answer. There is no wrong answer. We're just trying to get to know you a little bit better. We'll be asking them individually, and you'll have as much time as necessary to answer the questions. But again, realizing that there is no right or wrong answer, please, if you don't mind, make them short and to the point. And in the end, we'll give you an opportunity to ask questions of us. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and start with the first question. What do you see as the function of the Planning Advisory Commission?
In going through your governing documents, I took opportunity to serve the comprehensive plan and the shoreline growth plan and all that jazz. I see the Planning Advisory Committee or Commission as a adjunct to the commissioners actually do the footwork for the commissioners to review the requirements, discuss options, get the feedback from the constituents of the districts and the county as a whole, and come up with a recommendation to the commissioners, or at a minimum, set of options for them, for you commissioners to pick and choose from. Basically, the committee is your eyes and ears, and they then do the necessary activities to be able for the commissioners as a whole make the right decision for the constituents of the county.
Thank you. Commissioner Trask, would you like to take the next one?
Hi, Bob. Why do you want to sit on the Planning Advisory Commission?
Say again, please.
Why do you want to sit on the Planning Advisory Commission?
Well, as I noted in my application, I'm retired now, about two and a half years, and we're done doing landscaping in our house at Shadowwood. And I've always been involved in civic activities, whether it's, when my daughter was in preschool and kindergarten, my union activities, I've been involved in professional societies. I'm on the HOA board of directors, and I'm the architecture committee chair. So I've always been doing something in my life that is civic oriented. And because I have the time, and to be totally honest, I'm kind of looking for something to do, and I don't really want to get a job now because I'm retired. On the other hand, anything's possible, but the opportunity presented itself. I felt that my background in specifically my union activities on different committees would lend itself to being a member of this commission. You have 6, 7 different points of view that you need to work things through and come up with consensus. My activities as a union person, I was involved in a lot of, how we say this, different things. I'll put it that way. It's easy to say. Governing documents, I don't know if you're familiar with engineers, but we're very specific and very detail-oriented. And I was involved in that for a number of years. I was on the Ombudsman Committee, Women's Activity basically a junior lobbyist on the Legislative and Public Affairs Committee, involved in organizing activities in Wichita. And then for a number of years, I was on the Joint Workforce Committee with executives of Boeing Company. So I've always done things outside of what one would consider traditional, and I've learned a lot of it. I've learned a lot of things, I'll put it that way, in dealing with people who have differing points of view and being able to come to a consensus to meet a common goal, a requirement. I like to make things happen. I like good things happen.
All right, great, thank you.
Mr. Schutte?
Sure, thank you. Please describe your familiarity and understanding of the Comprehensive Plan, Growth Management Act, and development regulations.
To be honest, I've thumbed through it, and there's a lot of legalisms there. Again, you know, I did a cursory review, and I say, okay, yeah, there's a lot of things here that meet the needs of the state, federal government, I suppose, too, without really sitting down and thoroughly digesting it. I'm saying that, you know, you guys are following the rules fine, but how well do people understand the rules? You know, there's a kind of a vision or a mission statement there, but I really don't see what the vision is. I mean, personally with me, I'd say that Mason County is a place for thriving, a place of thriving communities, for commuters and local businesses and industries, and, you know, would be a preferred destination for year-round recreation and employment. I mean, that's something that anyone can grab a hold of, unless you're a really technical-oriented person or administratively oriented individual. I've done that sort of thing at a less sort of detailed level, again, with my activities on the union. There's a lot of, I would say this, information and understanding I would need in a lot of help. And I'm perfectly willing and able to ask their questions and be tutored by knowledgeable individuals, subject matter experts, of getting up to speed. It's going to take a while. I'm just walking in. But what I do know of Mason County from the years that we've owned property in Sevilla, and now, you know, a pretty good business. It's a nice place to live, and I want to make sure that it stays that way. I mean, what good are rules and laws if they're not enforced? So they have to be understood by everyone so that they do follow rules. And I would say this again, I like to make things happen.
All right, thank you, Bob. Question number 4, and again, I just want to remind you, there's no right or wrong answers, so feel free just to, you know, say what you need to do. What is your opinion of rural development?
You're breaking up. What my opinion of
rural development.
That one there is kind of a tricky, subjective question. I myself grew up in Cedar Woolley, and we had 5 acres. We were about 5 or 6 miles out of town, and I liked being out there where it was quiet. You didn't hear the airplanes and the noise. There would be a train every night, but that was like a mile away, and every once in a while we could hear the cars at Skagit Speedway. So I liked the quiet and the ambiance of that. Unfortunately, population grows and they need places to live. And if you don't manage it just so, you're going to have urban sprawl. And that's not really what I think the people of Mason County really want to see or would be comfortable with. At the same time, you know, population centers are going to grow. Shelton, you know, is the only real city in the county. Yet you have Allen and Belfair and other little birds that are growing, huge, hood sport and stuff. They're going to grow because people want to live there. And when they move from the big city like we did, from Federal Way, there are certain amenities you want to have. I personally don't care for Starbucks. I don't like their coffee. But people, when they move from those areas, want these things here, so you're going to have growth. It's how you manage the growth and how you prepare for it. And that's where your 2036 plan does talk about those urban growth areas. And you plan for like the bypass of Belfair. And I agree, Belfair is bypass the traffic there due to the commuters going up to the shipyards and back. You know, Shelton needs a bypass too. But there's nothing in the works I've been able to see that. But not to say it won't happen. But again, it's managing what your expectations are and what the expectations of the constituents. What do they want? They want a urban sprawl. I think that housing deal that the city of Shelton wanted to do was a prime example. It's like 400 and more homes. You know, my God. Well, they'll certainly be filled full of people. Where are they going to work and what are they going to do? That was another question, but I never did understand the answer. But again, it has to be managed to the point where it makes perfect sense for everyone now and everyone in the future, and that's kind of a tricky way. I myself like the trees. I like the mountains. And, you know, I've been on this side of the mountains for 50 some odd years, and I like the rain too.
Thank you, Bob. So, Commissioner Trask, would you mind taking the next question?
Not at all. So, Bob, the board currently meets in the evenings about once a month, and right now they're using Zoom. Will that be a problem?
No, the third Wednesday or third Monday of the month at 6 o'clock, no problem. I mean, it'd be nice to not have to do the Zoom stuff, and that eventually will go away. And yeah, I see the commission has been busy having meetings regarding the Belfair bypass, and that I don't have any issues whatsoever. As I said, I'm retired. You know, there's only so much Netflix and Amazon Prime I can watch. Now that the library's open, I can, you know, go there and peruse books. I mean, the Timberlane book or the library system is not as extensive as the King County one, which I was used to. But hey, you know, you got to live where you live, and these are the things. So.
Yeah, we have an incredible community here, a lot of options. Commissioner Schutte, would you mind taking the next question?
Yeah, Bob, pretty straightforward. I think you already answered it on the application, but do you have any conflicts of interest or county code violations hanging out there for you?
I do not.
Perfect.
I have no issues. The county I'm aware of, and as for conflict of interest, every year, Bowen, we've had to go through our conflict of interest activities, including Corrupt from Foreign Practices Act and God knows what all else. So, no, I know what the rules are, and I would say this, I try to keep myself out of trouble.
Thank you. So we're down to the last one. Bob, do you have any specific questions for us that need answered?
Well, as I see the county commissioner's role, and to simplify it, you guys run the county. You're the executive officers. Everything comes to you guys. You're responsible for an extensive budget. You have a pretty good and willing amount of employees that report to you. So you guys are busy. I mean, looking at your agenda every 2 weeks, I know what you mean. I've been there on an executive board of the union, and 2 weeks goes by real fast, and there's always something in between. So you need a lot of help, and need confident health that's proactive and is applying the same information as you guys. My only real question personally is, or actually two really, I kind of touched on it about the Belford bypass. When we go to our cabin today, we got to go through downtown Shelton, and that can be annoying depending on time of day. So when we go through go through Shelton on the way to our cabin, coming home we go take the Johns Ferry Road and just bypass the congestion, and that would be a consideration of trying to do something to that road so that you can go straight to Highway 101, and that way commuters will obviously just not clog the roads up as much. And the other two is there any, I would say this, idea or desire to remake Shelton and the guy like they did with Winthrop and Leavenworth?
Yeah. Commissioners, do you mind if I take this one?
The tree capital of the world, and is there any way to leverage off of that?
You mind if I take it, Commissioners? Bob, so on the Johns Prairie Road one, we are looking, and we've been looking at options for years. It's very cost prohibitive, but at the same time, it's also a connection onto a state highway of which we don't actually have authority or control. But we are looking at different options to try and make something happen, and we will continue to do that in the near future. As for Shelton, I want to point out and make really clear, the Mason County Commission has no authority over the city of Shelton. The city of Shelton,
I understand that, but then again, that's where the elected representatives in Olympia come in handy.
Yeah, and we try not to step on their toes at all because it's their home and their responsibility. So, hey, I want to thank you very much for applying, and we should have an answer back to you within the next week, two at the tops.
That's just an idea. Same thing with makeover for Shelton. I realize that the city of Shelton itself, but you guys are the executive officers of the entire county, so any coordination would be worked through the commission itself.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's kind of what I've been thinking of lately.
Yeah.
I'm full of ideas.
Well, again, Bob, we appreciate you applying for this. The commission will talk about it a little bit later, and a final decision will be made what we're doing within the next week, two at the most, okay?
Okay, well, I do appreciate the opportunity to discuss these things with you, and I look forward to a positive response.
Thank you so much, and thank you again. Commissioners, we are going to close that aspect of it, and we will now move into support, our briefing on support services with Frank Pinter. Frank, would you mind starting us off?
Thank you, Commissioners. Our first item is the treatment sales tax funding. And Jennifer, if you would take that.
Thank you, Frank. Good morning, Commissioners. So this is the first in a series of other briefings that you'll be hearing about today from the Health Department, but we wanted to bring forward the treatment sales tax funding to the jail. Currently, there's $150,000 budgeted to the jail, and last year, the actual revenue that was brought in from mental health to the jail, the transfer done, was about $55,000, and so there's a need to look at the different aspects of the billing that's being done and the approval process, what's approved by mental health to the jail. So currently there's about $11,000 per quarter in psychiatric ARNP services, and then about $3,000 a quarter in medications that are approved from mental health to the jail. So the aspect that's missing is the actual passing of the medications from the RNs. And that looks like it's about $18,865. And that's according to that attachment that you'll see there. That's about $18,865 per quarter. And so my recommendation is that we use that for a year as the basis to add the medication pass cost into the jail nursing, or I'm sorry, into the jail billing. And so that would bring the actual cost that the jail is reimbursed for to about 130,000 roughly, instead of the 55,000. So Commissioner Schutte, you've been very involved in this, so I don't know if you want to add anything, any thoughts onto this?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Jennifer. Commissioners, a little bit of history and a little bit of context, I think, is also going to be helpful for this conversation. So, Commissioner Trask, this was a little bit before your time. Commissioner Nevin, you may remember back in the 2017 budget deliberations, the commission added this $150,000 transfer to jail for medical services related to mental health, behavioral health services. In large part, it was to close a budget gap. And so the challenge that we were up against over the past couple of years was simply we had funded a program before building a program. And so over the past couple of years, it's been a little bit of a piecemeal or buckshot approach to figuring out, what makes sense in order to stay within the boundaries of what the treatment sales tax is intended to be used for, but also help offset some of the pressure on current expense to fund those nursing services. And so this is something that has been been kind of worked on in large part by Lydia in public health and over the past couple of years. And there was we were seeing that basically we were never hitting the full 150 based on what was eligible for reimbursement. I think in 2018 and 2019, we were just a little bit over $120,000 in transfers from treatment sales tax over to the jail. And then in 2020, that number went down significantly and is on pace to kind of be more in line with 2020. And there was basically a policy decision that some of these nursing hours wouldn't be considered eligible for TST. And so we kind of dug into it a little bit to see if there was an opportunity to find consensus on what the right number should be for reimbursement. I personally, after looking at everything, don't think that the $150,000 is necessarily the right number. I do think that it's closer to that $120,000 number that gets us, some relief on current expense, but also helps us continue to advance the programming that is necessary from a behavioral health and substance use perspective in the jail. And so we went through and took a look at what the nursing hours were. And so my logic is kind of as follows. So we support through this the psychiatric nurse practitioner who does the prescribing, and we support the actual purchase of the medication that was prescribed, but we haven't been paying for the distribution of those medications to inmates who they were prescribed to. And so, in my mind, the logic is if the prescribing it is treatment, if the purchasing of it is treatment, then the actual distribution of it, at least in some portion, should be considered treatment as well. In my experience, pills don't take themselves. And so I think we have to look at finding a compromise that helps us do a couple of things. One, get that number back up from the mid 50s that it's currently at, because I don't think that's accurate. And number two, I think we need to be mindful of what the nurses are doing, with the medication as they distribute it. In terms of considering that treatment, we do have some, I think, broad latitude under the RCW and our own policies and procedures regarding the treatment sales tax to consider it the distribution of the medication as treatment. And the other thing that has really come to our attention, and Lydia and Abe have worked really hard on this with Health Delivery Services, who provides the nursing medical services in the jail, as well as with Chief Hansen, has been trying to figure out how we can encourage more people to get on the programming, with MAT services in the jail and working with the peer. And so there's really two parts of this. It's figuring out the funding side of it and getting it to be a number that's more reflective of the actual treatment work that's happening in the jail, but also an opportunity to look to continue to expand access and people engaging in the programming while they're in the jail with us. And then how that dovetails with the reentry work that is also being done is, I think, really important. So kind of the bottom line, it's not $150,000 in my opinion. It's not $50,000 in my opinion. There is a number in the sweet spot. And so we thought it would be important to bring it back to the commission to decide and weigh in a little bit more on the thoughts on what treatment is and help settle at a number that, that makes sense. That's my perspective. I think it would also be important to hear from Lydia and or Abe as well, commissioners, if you're good with that.
Yeah, before we do though, we may already be on the same page, so we may not have to do all that. Commissioner Trask, do you have something you'd like to add to this conversation?
I know that the MAT works. I mean, I've done a lot of research on it, and it's absolutely essential. And I think that it's not just prescribing the medication, and you have to be able to take the pills for it to work. So I'm inclined to follow Commissioner Schuette's guidance in this. And if you think 120 is more appropriate, or somewhere around there, then I'm good with that too.
And for myself, there's no question in my mind dispensary is eligible. I don't know how that's even being questioned, but a couple of things I'd like to know. When it comes for trying to get the most accurate number, are we so restricted in how it was put together that we have to have a change during the year? I could see us doing that during budget, and I would expect that we would allow them to utilize, since it was already in the budget, up to the highest amount that they were allocated, as long as they can find a way for spending it. So I guess my question is, if it's a policy change, I'm not sure that it even needs a policy change, as I'm confused to who would make that decision. I don't believe we did at the commission level. So
correct. And that's I think more, I wouldn't be recommending any changes to the budget on this. I think, we were clear when we said we wanted it to be the $150,000 for this year. If we go into budget discussions for 2022 and we want to actualize that number a little bit differently, that's another conversation. But the reason that this is coming in front of us today is so that we could definitively say that we think it should be reimbursed at a higher level than what it had been in 2020 and what it was on pace to be reimbursed at in 2021, and weigh in definitively on what our interpretation of the policy is and what treatment means under that policy in the RCWs.
And I wholeheartly agree. And in a minute, I'll give our staff an opportunity to weigh in. I just wanted to clarify, I also already think the money's been allocated. If there's a structural change that was put in writing that we have to adjust, then we should bring it back to adjust it to allow for its use. But other than that, we should have the leniency built into this to where they can utilize it to the best of their ability, as long as it stays within the parameters. And if staff thinks it doesn't stay within the parameters, I guess now is when I would ask them to go ahead and speak up now and let us know why it wouldn't fit within the parameters, and if you can find other ways to let them expend that money within the parameters. Can I start with, let's see, where'd she go? Oh, Lydia, there she is. Lydia, would you mind chiming in, please?
Of course. So there's a couple of things. Commissioner Trask, you mentioned the MAT payment and services for that. That's not what this was talking about. This was nursing services originally, not medication payments originally in the 150. That was paying for nursing services for 8 hours a day, 7 days a week. And about a year and a half ago, I brought this back to the commissioners, saying that we felt we needed to make some changes in what we were actually paying for at the jail that met the dialogue, what exactly the RCW said. And so we began working on some different ideas and some different issues. One of those was we changed and started paying for the specific psychiatric nurse practitioner, which is a nurse, but it is the practitioner, and that was not being paid for before by this. So we made some switches along the way. We started the MAT program. The MAT program is completely being paid for by TST dollars. The medications, the nursing time, the EKG, and all the testing that has to be done. So that we added that during this time when we made these changes. So what we were trying to do was be more realistic around just moving away from just paying blatantly for nursing services to what exactly are we paying for a treatment, coordinated treatment program, which is part of the language in the RCW. So that was kind of the changes that were made. We have made those changes that did adjust how much they were getting, and so they began billing the lower amount. So that's how that all happened and came about.
You need from us something specific in writing saying that they're allowed to utilize that money up to that dollar amount for anything that is covered under chemical dependency, mental health, or therapeutic courts? Anything that can be billed out of that?
Well, again, that's what we were trying to do, Commissioner. We were trying to find out what specifically the jail had that they could bill to that, which is hence why we switched and started paying for all the substance use and mental health drugs. We started paying for the nurse practitioner. We started paying and setting up the MAT program and all of the things that were to be paid out of that. What we weren't paying for still is nursing services. Nursing services do all kinds of things in the jail. I'm a nurse, so and I do know that though I've never worked in the jail, so we've gone and talked with the nurses and got an idea. They wanted to be able to do some assessments and things, and that's where we begin to work with some other amounts. At this point, I'm kind of exhausted in this whole thing, to be honest. So whatever the commissioner wants to do, the commissioners want to do, I want to just move forward. And if we want to look at rechanging a budget, because I heard what you said about changing mid-budget and stuff, I understand that's not a good practice. So if we want to look at budget for next year, see if anything changes, I'm fine with that. I just want them, it was just difficult to have them just bill for nursing service when nurses actually do all kinds of other things in the jail, diabetic treatment, other things that would just fall under that. And to just pay for hours, 8 hours a day, doesn't specifically to me guarantee that has anything to do with substance use treatment. They do pass meds, and this is where the question came up. They pass meds around detoxing people. And we tried to work a little bit more of a program of detox in there. But finally, it came down to they just wanted to be able to pass meds to detox out people that needed it or help them through detox when they enter the jail. So that's where the question came with paying for some nursing services for detoxing.
So I'm a little confused. First of all, I think we should be paying for the dispensary. I don't see how that would even be a question. But my question is I'm looking at it, and these nurses, there's no way they can't be dealing with 8 hours a day of mental health of some sorts of situation, not to mention the chemical dependencies and stuff. I don't see how that could even be a confusion. I don't think that would be an audit issue at all. Jennifer, do you see it as an audit issue, or Frank, either one of you, if we were to just let them bill into that nursing like we thought they were doing in the beginning? Yes, please.
First, Frank. So no, I don't see it as an audit issue. I think it was more a question on the mental health, their side of approving the billing. They wanted to make sure everybody was on the same page, or that we had a process for billing those hours. And I think what Lydia is saying is that we couldn't use the TST funding for anything besides the SUD and psychiatric care. But the RCW is a little bit loose in what they will pay for. So no, I do not see it as being an audit issue, but this makes it very solid if we all agree on the quarterly RN time process. So does that answer your question?
Yes, it does.
And if I may add to that, Commissioner, I agree that some of the nursing functions that occur at the jail are at times mental health related. Where the difficulty came in is tracking that time and being able to identify 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there, 35 minutes over here, and coming up with a reasonable mechanism of developing a model to bill for that. So in lieu of that, they've developed this model which says for all of the medications that were dispensed, there was X amount of minutes to expense those, and it becomes a very simple mathematical equation to figure out how much money should be allocated out of treatment sales tax into the jail. The chief of the jail in Lewis County previously had a much larger chunk of his medical payments paid for out of treatment sales tax. That's where that conversation started. They haven't had an audit issue, and I'm not suggesting that it's because we follow somebody else, we won't have a problem with it. I think we're going down the right path by identifying a very clear mechanism to say, these are dollars that can be billable and can be mathematically calculated. And this is a reasonable compromise.
Thank you. I guess I can say I'm supportive of doing exactly what we're saying, and then I also think we should allow the jail to go ahead and bill out a small percentage of the regular nursing on a standard number so they could utilize the amount of money that we gave them. Anything that they use out of this money will come out of another pocket. We get it back at the end. It just makes sense for them to utilize this aspect to the amount we have allowed them, as flexible as possible.
Great. So that's really all that this briefing is asking for, is that we all agree on the mechanism to include the RN time to distribute the meds. So if you're all in agreement, commissioners.
Except for, doesn't there still leave out $25,000-$30,000 here?
Yes, yes, most likely it will, unless there's a really high dollar amount of meds to make up that.
That's what I was saying. I think the remainder should be allowed to be used as long as it falls within the parameters of the tax, and we simplify it and get it done. What do you think, guys?
So my only concern with that is, even from its inception, we have never hit the $150,000, and so I'm with you up to that point. You know, I think we picked 150 to get it closing a budget gap, and I don't know that there was a ton of anything behind that other than we needed to kind of fix a problem, and that's how we did it. But 4 years on, I don't know that 150 overall is the right answer. I wouldn't change anything, like I said, this year. But going forward, I think we have to be a little bit more realistic about that so that we don't continue to run into this issue of what's eligible and what isn't. So I would just be cautious about that.
Okay, so we'll just stick with the program as presented on this. Do you need us to do anything? Is there any action that you actually need?
No, not at this time. I think that when the health department brings forward the resolution to change the distribution and wording in the resolution, then they will need that, of course, to go to action. But this process just needed to be reviewed.
So we okay with moving forward as we've discussed, commissioners?
I am.
Yep, I'm good.
Okay. Thank you, Lydia.
Thank you.
So the next thing that we have is the electronic signature policy, and this has been long awaited. The policy as it's presented, I do have a couple of suggested changes to it. On page 2 of the policy, under section 4, paragraph A, we have in the last sentence of that section, I just want to add, after required by statute, or I want to add or county policy onto that.
Any objection, commissioners?
That's a good change.
Nope, we're good.
Okay, and then in the same section under paragraph A1, or I'm sorry, paragraph A2, the last sentence in that paragraph, steering committee, we don't have a steering committee at this time. So I want to change the steering committee as outlined in the electronic signature procedures manual, cross that out, and instead put Board of Mason County Commissioners.
Any heartburn, commissioners?
No, just, is that something that the audit committee could actually take on and manage, or?
The audit committee is really more geared towards accounting type functions and not so much the electronic signature IT function. I think that if we're going to put something like that in here, we can create a steering committee for IT. That would be my suggestion.
And we don't pass things at the audit committee.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay, yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay, and we can definitely look at changing this in the future too.
Well, and I mean, a steering committee wouldn't pass things anyway either.
Yeah,
So I mean, it would, no matter how you did it, it would have to come to us anyway, so.
yeah. It's just saying approved by, I don't know, recommended by audit committee or something, but, or we'll just leave it as recommended by Jennifer.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Yep, I'm good.
Me too.
And
Next.
then page 3, under the same section 4 policy, paragraph part A, paragraph 6, the last sentence. I think that we need to add something in there where it ends with the process beforehand, and put, and the routing and approval process is followed in the same manner as handwritten signatures for items requiring Mason County Commissioner board action per the board's operating guidelines, currently resolution 02-19.
Can you say that again?
Yes, I'll read the entire sentence, or the entire section. Documents sent to the county that originate at an external organization requesting an e-signature using a method or process selected by the external organization can be signed electronically by county staff as long as supervisors of both parties agree to the method or process beforehand, and the routing and approval process is followed in the same manner as handwritten signatures for items requiring Mason County Commissioner board action per the board's operating guidelines, currently resolution 02-19.
So a long way of saying that you still have to make sure that it's okay and approved by what we've done or allowed through the commission.
Exactly, yes. No circumventing the process.
Yeah, I got it. And sometimes you got to say it or it'll happen. So I'm supportive of that. Commissioners?
Yeah,
With me.
that's a good change.
Okay, next.
And then in page 3, section 4B, Mason County Department Business Applications. I forgot to add in elected officials in that section 1. So new electronic signature service implementations, elected officials, directors, managers, and supervisors or their designees of departments desiring to implement electronic signature services for the first time, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, just adding an elected officials into that.
Any objection to that, commissioners?
None for me.
All right, next.
So that's all that I have on that. So, and Frank, when did you want this to go to board action? When did you want to ask for that?
If the board is hoping to get the CDC mask attestation guidelines in place and have that electronically signed, and I'm talking about the attestation, then we would need this policy in place prior to us sending out the email in regards to the attestation, because those can be captured electronically by the software that we've recently purchased.
Can you have it put together and on our agenda for tomorrow, Jennifer?
Yes.
Commissioners, is that what you'd like to do also?
Yes.
Yep, that's fine.
So let's do that.
Great, we'll put it on for tomorrow. Thank
Thank
you.
Thank you, commissioners. And before we move on, I know Peter Jones had an item that he wanted to slide in our briefing.
Good morning, Peter.
Good morning, commissioners. Yeah, I apologize first off for kind of the last minute nature of this, in that I got notified of this Friday afternoon. And OPD essentially has some surplus funds, and so they created a grant and assigned money under that grant to our counties based on our normal OPD grant applications. And so they've assigned us $19,656 specifically to be used towards work dealing with the State v. Blake repercussions. Now, I have to say that in our county, we've had it a lot easier than other public defense agencies in that not a lot of our State v. Blake stuff is contested, but we still have a number of client interactions. We still have a number of dealing with refunds and dealing with who wants this and looking at people from the past to figure this out. And so the money could be used.
So you're asking us to take 20 grand?
Oh yeah, I'm asking the county to take 20 grand that's just being offered to us. That's what I'm asking.
Commissioners, do you have any issue with taking 20 grand?
I feel like money for something we're already going to be doing is a no-brainer.
No, and it is. You have an agreement by the commission.
Yeah, I'll have it on the action agenda tomorrow, and I'll shut up and let you go on with your meeting now.
Thank you very much, Peter. Have an awesome day.
You too.
Okay.
Thank you, Peter. Next item is the Mason County Redistricting Advisory Committee membership. Diane?
Yes, commissioners. So we reached out to the Mason County Republican Party and the Democrat Party for their nominations for the Citizens Committee. And the Republicans are nominating Bob Rogers and Philip Wilson. The Democrats are nominating John Piety and Linda Prado. So I'm asking if we can put the appointments on the July 6th agenda, and then the auditor's office will be reaching out to them and supporting this committee.
Good.
Yep, looks like we're good.
Okay. And then my next item is I'm asking the board, do you want to continue with your current meeting schedule, which is briefing every Monday and then every other Tuesday at 9 a.m.?
Comments, commissioners?
So I'm fine with that in the interim. I do think we need to, as the governor's order is set to expire on June 30th, just talk about, what things look like July 1st and beyond. If that's something that staff wants to put on for next Monday's briefing, but I think they kind of have to go hand in glove.
Are you talking possibly with in-person meetings?
Correct.
Yeah, that's what I anticipated. It was after the 30th. I'll bring it back for that.
But in terms of schedule, I'm okay with your recommendation.
Okay.
As am I.
Okay, you got your marching orders.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Then the next item, Diane, didn't you have a create, post, and fill request?
Oh, yes, I forgot about that one. So unfortunately, but good for her, Jen in our office has submitted her resignation. She's accepted a job in the county here. But I'm requesting permission to post and fill the secretary receptionist position, which is the front desk here in the commissioner's office.
Good with me.
Yeah, sad to see her go, but she's got a great opportunity, and I know that she's her new position and the people around her are going to welcome her open arms.
Okay, what else you got?
Thank you,
That's
Commissioner.
it for me.
The next item we have is a staffing request from the prosecutor's office. So about 2 or 3 weeks ago, we discussed as part of the funding and the reorganization of support services, the commission asked for information about what other departments' staffing requests are going to be. At that time, the prosecutor's office brought forward 2 staffing items. One was to create a position for a deputy prosecutor 2 to manage some of the backlog created from the COVID. The fact that the courts are now opened and there's a huge backlog of cases that are required to be heard, as well as the extra workload created by the Blake decision, both of which would be a requirement for adding this additional staff. Mike, did you want to mention or add anything to that?
So yeah, good morning and thanks. And Tim should be on too. Those are both accurate. There's also probably the lesser unique to the times fact that that would still, if back to the deputy prosecutor staff that we had back in like 2008 or 9, it restores us to that ability. But right now, yeah, we have 2. If the Blake decision, which I know you're familiar with, and the COVID situation, which I definitely know you're familiar with, weren't a perfect storm enough. The 2 requests that we have combined, the other one, we lost our victim witness advocate to resignation in January, and in the process of advertising and recruiting to rehire for that very essential and required position. The grant that partially funded it was cut, and we've been unable to hire to replace that position. And so that puts such a strain on the rest of the staff, and both non-attorney and attorney staff, on top of the fact that starting in March, as the courts started allowing us to re-engage with jury trials, there's a big backlog, larger than normal backlog of cases that are having to go to trial, that have been waiting, some of them for a long time, for their turn to go to trial. And then on top of that, dealing every single week with contacting victims in all of these old cases. And I appreciate, and I was listening when Peter Jones was on, about the fact that most of it has not been contested. There's no sense in fighting battles that don't need to be fought, in terms of what the new state of the law is going forward. But the tentacles for the Spokane versus Blake decision, I don't even think we have a full understanding of how far they reach yet. We're having to engage in resentencing for people that have been in prison for some very serious crimes for a very long time, because some of the prior offender points that were part of the calculus in determining the sentence now have to be unconsidered and a new sentence imposed, which also requires contact with victims of cases and trying to get those things scheduled. So all of it together has been a bit of a perfect storm for us since January of this year. And so I think I went probably beyond the question and talked about both the positions, but certainly be willing to answer any other questions that the commission might have. But I do appreciate bringing it back on. We had submitted it. I heard that there were a lot of requests that the decision was made to deal with them in the budget process, which is fine for most things, but it's killing us right now without the ability, the staff power to work through all of these cases.
Mr. Prosecuting Attorney, if you don't mind, I just want to clarify something so that there is no confusion. We're asking for one full-time position, Deputy Prosecuting to 6-step attorney, and a increase of 0.75 on the victim witness advocate position. Is that
Essentially, yes, that's correct. I do want to be clear, though, that the 0.75 increase, so the grant was never enough to fully fund an FTE for a victim witness advocate. So the county already, what we did is we used to have a 0.4 clerical help position, which we also gave up in order to make the victim witness advocate position work. We got rid of that 0.4 FTE and asked the commission to route that money towards offsetting the difference, which it just actually, I was going to say it just barely did. It didn't quite even. I think last year the medical went over. So it was a 75-25 split, and it's probably coming in more like 70-30. There's been a reduction in the grant. They've told us to anticipate another reduction next year. But there will still be grant funds coming in. And I think, although we haven't gotten the grant letter yet, I believe the number for example, this year, I just had it up. Where did I put it?
So, Mike, are you saying we already have the position? You're looking for a reallocation of funds to cover it?
We have the FTE. We have the position. There's a quarter FTE in the prosecutor budget, and then there's a 0.75 in the victim witness advocate program. But that 0.75 doesn't have enough money coming in from the grant anymore to pay a person for that full FTE. It's been cut to about 55,362 for this year. So as you can see, that what we've estimated the net budget impact over and above the 0.25 that the county already funds would be about 59,798, which means as the reimbursables come in, by the end of the year, the impact's not a lot more than what it currently is for that position, but it does protect us from the minor variations or fluctuations year to year, not having to worry about whether we're going to have enough to pay somebody. And I should note also, which I was reminded of this morning, the non-attorney staff, the legal staff is currently bargaining for what will be their first CBA as a newly formed bargaining unit. And this estimate is based upon what the current budget for that position is, salary and benefits. If the salary changes based on what the commissioners offer in a contract, then that will fluctuate a little bit. But it would be our anticipation that it would be a dollar for dollar reimbursement until the grant funds are gone, and anything not spent would then go back to the county.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, do you mind if we separate these two and have a discussion on one and then the other?
That's fine.
Okay. If you don't mind, I'd like to talk about the full-time deputy prosecutor 2 position. I myself, with everything that we're facing, we knew before that we had to adjust to this sooner rather than later. We've actually been talking about this for several years as we were doing budget cuts and making things happen. I personally am in favor of moving forward right away with that position and getting that filled so that we're in front of the curve, not behind it as things drop on us, and we can get caught up. How do you feel about my comment?
I'm 100% supportive.
Commissioner Trask?
Yeah, I agree. I'm disappointed in the state because I know through WASAC we have been fighting. We petitioned the state vigorously, I guess, to help the counties in this added expense through Blake, but we were unsuccessful. But it's absolutely critical that they get this person.
Excellent. So Frank, we'll move forward on that one. The next one is it is not truly an increase of a 0.25 position to a 1.0 position. It is a reallocation of funds from grant to general fund to pay for the 1.0 position. The total cost impact is $59,798. Now we anticipate, it says that reimbursable grants will remain available for offset. So you're asking for this. Do you know how much yet, or is this just jumping out front to cover it all?
So my request is that the county fund the full FTE. So it would be an additional, based on the current salary and benefits, the current year budget, it would be $59,798. And although we're still waiting for our grant letter, because it runs June 30th or July 1st to June 30th. And based upon the cut they told us to expect, I would anticipate between July 1st and June 30th of next year. In other words, there's an offset of how we each entity budgets, but the collection of at least, based on what they told us, a little over 55,000. I think what that would end up meaning is that whatever the full weight is, minus the 55,000 that we collect, that is a dollar for dollar reimbursement, that amount, whatever we collect from the grant, would essentially stay unspent and then go back to the county.
I guess my question would
the county would still get the 55,000 plus of reimbursement. And there's what makes it difficult to be real specific about numbers is there's talk about whether there's going to be a one-time infusement of some state money to get it back to the 61 that it was last year. There's also talk about, how things might change in the future. But for right now, the number that we're working off of is the 55,362 that they cut it down to. And then the anticipation for whether or not there's going to be a one-time state infusion that might bump that up a little bit or not, and whether or not it'll get cut again next year.
I guess my question would be then, considering that the sands are moving, if nothing was to change today, do you have the ability to cover this in your budget?
No.
With all those moving tides?
No, and that's why I've had some sensitive conversations with lots of different victims who are frustrated, with attorney staff who are frustrated, with non-attorney staff who are frustrated just with the lack of services and the burden that it is on the rest of the office to try to pick up for that lack. It's essential. It's really critical for the office. And so if there's unpredictability with the grant funds, and it was budgeted almost to the dollar. I mean, as I said, I think with some changes that were made to medical, it actually wasn't even the 75-25 split. The full grant amount plus the 0.25 that the county funded wasn't quite enough to get it all last year. So we would be at the mercy of, hiring and firing and hiring or laying off and hiring and laying off throughout the year, which is fairly untenable. And there's a lot of training that goes into it. There's a lot of specific computer software and logging and tracking that has to be done for the grant reimbursement, just in terms of the services being provided to crime victims and crime witnesses. And so I would anticipate it still being a split pay. And I was talking with Darcy a bit about it this morning. The truth is, it's not my bailiwick, but the moral of the story, I think, is regardless of how you get there, what the best way administratively is to get there. If it was the full 79,798, for example, notwithstanding the possible change to that salary based on the collective bargaining process, that we could rely on in the county budget, we would be reimbursing dollar for dollar until the grant was expended. And then, so the county really is, the budget impact is a lot less than the 59,798, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Based on this calculus and the grant we're looking to expect for the year, it would be about 5,000.
I think it's important to remember that these crime victims have statutory and constitutional rights that we have to fulfill. And it's critical to have this position. There's I guess no other way around saying it that way, in my opinion.
Sorry, and that's important.
So I don't, maybe we can stop you guys from pitching past the wind here. I think it's important that we take care of this position. We do a lot. It feels like in this state, we're shifting to being offender advocates, and here we have an opportunity to be a victim advocate. and make sure those folks are taken care of and get a fair shake in the system. And so the risk of this going away to any degree, is really untenable for the community, and it sounds like for the PA's office. And so I'm supportive of making this position whole and making sure we take care of our victims in this county and get them the justice they deserve too.
Thank you. Commissioner Trask?
Yeah, I think most people know that I worked in a prosecutor's office for 6 years, and I worked jail court, and I was a victim's advocate. It is so critical, and then I'm Turning Point board member. It is so critical that our victims are represented and that they feel like they have our support. Agree with Commissioner Schutte. There's the skills are not even anymore, and so we need to make sure that we help them as much as we can.
And with that, also, I want to point out that your office has always, and I mean always, been receptive when there's budget issues and budget needs that happen, that you've given up funds over the years. And when something is not spent, I have no doubt that it will come back like it's supposed to. With that being said, and our appreciation for what you're doing, I also am in support of this. So Frank, if you will go ahead and start to make that happen as well. Do you have any last questions for us before we move on, Mr. Prosecutor?
I just want to say I appreciate that, and I especially appreciate Commissioner Schutte's wisdom in knowing that if you don't tell a lawyer to stop talking, he's not going to stop talking. But thank you all. I appreciate it. It is important, and it's really, before we had this specific position, I think we knew that there was a lack and that we weren't that we could do better, and we've really
hear you, Kevin. Just kidding.
We often got anything final. I appreciate it.
We often don't come to you with our hands out, and we really appreciate the time and consideration you guys, all three of you, have put into this, and thank you very much. And I think it's a valuable service that we can provide and we have to provide to the community. So thank you all three.
Well, thanks to the both of you. Have an awesome day.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Hey, Frank, what do you got next?
Thank you, Commissioners. I wanted to shift the sequence of things here. Speaking in the same line, the succession planning for the real property technician in the assessor's office was also brought forward at that same point in time. And with some modifications, which is not to ask for an additional FTE for the assessor's office, but rather to increase the FTEs in advance of an anticipated retirement next year, so that the assessor's office can properly prepare and train a successor to this real property tech position, somebody to manage the parcel legal descriptions for the assessor's office. So they're asking for, similar to what the auditor's office asked for, which was an extra person to come on board in anticipation of a retirement, at which time, once the person does retire, this would be the fulfillment of that position and would not add extra staff to the department. So that's the request for the assessor's office, is a succession planning person to work with the real property technician that's retiring to be able to learn the parcel legal descriptions, meets and bounds that this position performs.
And as you can tell, Commissioners, this is kind of what I was trying to get at last week, and I just had to believe that we were getting there, but obviously we were missing it still. So I appreciate that it did come back. I want to point out also that that department is another one that gave up and went with less because we needed the funds. So they did away with a full position at that time. So with this, I'm very supportive, and I think that it is necessary to have that transition period. And I also I'm under the understanding they will make sure that more than one will be able to read every one of those property descriptions as they come forward. I think this is a wise move on our part to make sure that there is no hiccups in between.
I love the fact that we're starting to look at succession planning, and especially for critical positions. So I support it.
Same. I think this is a good clarification from where we left things last week, and kind of ties up those loose ends. So supportive.
Okay. Sounds like we got three again.
Thank you, Commissioners. The next item is the American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA. This is a revisit from previous briefings that we had. We have finally filed for receipting of the funds. Jennifer acted as the county's representative and documented or filled the application for the federal government for us to be able to receipt these dollars. They should be coming shortly. What I have is a briefing document in front of you that we already started and has been updated for those items that are potentially available for the use of these funds to present back to the board for discussion and conversation should there be any more decisions to be made or anything else that the board would like to add to it as a placeholder for these dollars.
One of the first things I'd like to ask the commission to consider, that we haven't spent out the money on the cameras yet, have we?
I believe they are in a purchase order, so we haven't spent the money, no.
But it hasn't been spent yet, so we should be able to get reimbursement on that then.
Jennifer?
That's correct. We have not expended any money.
Okay. With that being said, this is something I brought up before, and I hope the commission will consider it. In the meantime, as we're deciding what to do with monies, I think it would be very wise for us to expend as much as we can within what our normal business and decisions have been, so we could take that same money and put it in another line item so it won't have restrictions on for its use. For example, if we have a situation where it's going to come out of the general fund for this, this, and this, we can expend it out of the general fund, get reimbursed from this money on it, and then take that money and put it in another line item. So it's like having that grant money that's unencumbered. I don't know if I'm making much sense. I know what I mean, but I'm not sure I'm expressing it properly. Jennifer, can you maybe do a better job of expressing, or did you even understand what I was saying?
Maybe. Let me try. So I think what you're saying, and what I believe was the idea and how the fund was set up, was that we would expend anything for ARPA out of the ARPA fund. So Fund 155, which was created June 8th, I believe. So anyway, if there is any expenditure in the general fund, we would reverse that out of the general fund and into ARPA?
No, the opposite. I would like to see it paid out of the general fund, and as we get the reimbursement money go into a separate line item. It's like being able to have that grant money and not have all the restrictions on it. We spend it to the best of our ability within our general fund that we're already utilizing. It's like washing the money, so to speak, to make sure that we have the ability to do what's necessary as projects come up. It may seem like extra work, but at the same time, we want to make sure that we don't have any issues with audits later. So if we make sure it's spent on the easier things that we know we were already going to spend money on, we can recoup it and save it for other more important and more questionable expenditures.
Commissioners, you take a look at this sort of living document that Frank has with the list of potential items. What on there do you feel like would make the most sense to do it in the way that you're explaining? Is there, I mean, can you give, I think what I'm asking for is kind of an example of what that would look like. And I asked that because I think the requirements are much more broad than we were dealing with last year with CARES Act. And so I don't know that, you know, we maybe necessarily need to think about things like that, but if you had some examples of things on there that might make sense, that might help me get there.
And again, we may not need to do this, but it sure would be nice if we don't have the issues that we have to deal with. One of the first ones are, of course, the cameras. We were already going to expend it out of the general fund. And if we were to expend it, if we hadn't got this money, we expended it out of the CARES Act funds and reimbursed it back. But another one might be jail expansion. We may have things that we're doing right now in the jail that we would have taken out of the general fund that were billed normally yearly, that we could maybe get those monies back. One of the conversations we had earlier was whether we could utilize some of these funds for actions that the Sheriff's Department is doing. And I don't see that on this list here, but if we have that and that does come up, we expend that out of the general fund normally.
For just a moment.
Yeah.
So the way that we had set up the amendment for the cameras was so that it would come out of the ARPA fund 155.
No, I was just using it as an example. I know that's what we're going to do, and I'm hoping that that's what we're going to do. We don't have anything that we've already done that we could transfer. So I'm just using that as an example. But let's just say you're able to use it for staffing from the sheriff's department. That staffing already would be covered and paid for out of the general fund. Instead, we utilize the ARPA funds for paying for that staffing. So now we get that money back, and now it's non-encumbered. So everything and anything that we can find in our general rule of business that fits underneath it, that we can utilize to pay for this, we can actually have it back to use with less encumbrances on it. There may be things, for example, as talking about sheriff's office and what they call it, jail expansion. Well, maybe there's an issue with actual straight out jail construction. I don't know that there is, and I hope there's not, but if there is, this will give us money to use for that straight out jail construction that is not covered under this. So basically we're offsetting our general fund expenditures to get the money back so it wouldn't be so encumbered.
So because we are receiving the ARPA funds up front, we would have to do a transfer out from the ARPA funds and into the general funds. So just to clarify that this is not a reimbursement grant.
Yes.
Okay.
And by doing that and paying for those things that we have that other money, but instead of just leaving it in the general fund, I would like to see us move it dollar for dollar into another fund so we keep track of what we have that is unencumbered.
If I may, just to use an exaggerated example,
please.
Let's assume the county were to decide that it wanted to spend $6 million on fiber optic infrastructure within the county organization and pay for it out of the general fund. I think what Randy is suggesting is that we use that $6 million fiber optic infrastructure cost that would have come out of the general fund, pay for it, use it as the reimbursement request for ARPA, and then have $6 million available in the general fund to do what might not fall strictly within the ARPA guidelines.
That's what I'm trying to say, but I'm not sure that anybody understands, but that's pretty accurate.
I guess I just don't know to what end though. I mean, I feel like, and maybe it's just a not understanding what the priorities would be for this money this year and in the next year or two.
Well,
so I guess that's where I'm still struggling a little bit.
Several things. It might be for a project that we want to do that doesn't fit, but it also may be to put something away for the future, or it also may be to find a way to reimburse some money back to the community. I'm getting all these, this is a far stretch, but I'm getting all these calls on their taxes and the way it's gone up. And we've been doing so well financially. Some of this money we don't necessarily have to spend. We could spend it out on things we're already doing to keep that money and use it for different ways in the community that are not on the list. So we'd have a lot more flexibility if we have that money separated and used.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'll just say, my two major priorities are helping people that are, behind because of COVID, with the account assistance that we've done in the past, and then leveraging this to do good infrastructure projects in the community that help with the recovery. So I get a little concerned getting too far outside of the spirit of what this funding is intended for, and I guess I would just need to see it.
Well, being able to get money back to the people directly would definitely help them during COVID. But that's just one example. Go ahead, Commissioner Trask.
I like to follow the guidance to the letter, and it makes me nervous when we're talking about other ways of or other areas to put the money. And so I truly want to help, help help people pay for their utility bills, their, and their internet and building infrastructure. I think that those should be at the top of our list as far as requests and then fulfilling them. We have another webinar, I believe it's Wednesday, on the funding. And so we should learn a little bit more about the guidelines, are they going to expand them? Or are they going to shrink them? We'll know more soon. So I hesitate to even look too far out until we have have more guidance from the Treasury, basically.
And I want to make clear, I want to follow the letter of the law to the extreme. I have no issue, and I'm not questioning that or asking for anything separate. What I'm doing is we would expend it on things that we're already doing, supplanting funds, so to speak, in order to be able to use the money again later. And just because we have money, and the one thing about getting this money is they're giving us this money and they expect us to spend it. With this much money, we're going to be spending on things that we necessarily probably shouldn't be, and maybe better having that money for future issues that come up. So with that being said, again, we don't have to do any of this stuff I'm recommending. I'm just letting it be known out there are other possibilities of ways of preparing for the future and the issues that we may be facing with it. And this was one of them, although not explained very well, even with Frank's help.
So I'm interested in hearing a little bit more about the updated guidance that maybe Commissioner Trask is talking about, and I will have a conversation with Frank about some of the proposals, Commissioner Netherland, that you're making today as well. But again, as I kind of mentioned, what my thinking is, what my priorities would be. We can continue to kind of hash it out from there.
Yep. All right, Frank, what else do you need from us on this?
On this, what I would ask is that each commissioner review the items that are on this list and begin to prioritize them. The list identifies $12 million worth of expenditures. Half of them don't even have dollar amounts associated with them. So there's more than $12 million worth of expenses here. The grant or the ARPA funding is only 12 million and change. So we're going to need to establish some sort of priority of what the commissioners would like to spend these on, and then we can have those conversations as we get closer to receiving the funding and spending it. Thank you, commissioners. Next item is the support services reorg and reclass requests. So this is a follow-up from last week's conversation in regards to the reorganization of the county. And we're looking for an authorization to create, post, and fill for the county administrator position at a range 47. The job description that Prothman had also reviewed and in draft form with modifications that each of you have put forward as well is in front of you. And that would be the position that would be used to create, post, and fill for the county administrator. Prothman had also put forward a salary survey or a salary proposal running the position's salary from $145,000 to $175,000. So there's some consideration as to where to put this position's salary range. In addition to that, we have already received authorization to create, post, and fill for the HR administrator position, as well as authorization to reclassify the budget manager to a budget and finance manager, as well as the administrative manager to a central services manager. So, and in discussions with my wife, and considering the timeline that Prothman had put forward in regards to hiring and getting somebody on board of somewhere between 3 and 4 months, I will offer extending my time to retire by 2 months so that there is a adequate time to be able to work a transition program with the new person on board. So I would be extending my retirement by that 2-month period.
I myself would be appreciative of that, and I hope the commission would not only consider that, but move forward with keeping him in place so we can have a good, smooth transition. Although I'm not supportive of the position we are creating, I am supportive of making sure that we are well protected and we have succession planning that occurs while we're doing it.
Yeah, so I'd like to suggest that we make this effective July 1st.
Yeah, so I'm supportive of both of those. I think it makes sense. Frank, I appreciate you making that accommodation. As we kind of try to tie up the loose ends here and begin the transition, I think it's important to have that in place once a permanent candidate is identified and accepted. So I would be supportive of having it be effective July 1st, giving you the interim tag, and then commissioners will have to discuss placement on the updated salary scale. And so maybe mid-range there, step 5 would be appropriate to as an opener, open to suggestions, but just I think it makes sense to have the transition started before we have a permanent candidate in place.
So with that, do you need anything more on that, Frank, or is that clear?
Nope, I think that's very clear. Thank you, commissioners. I'm glad to be able to offer, working with the commission as well as the new person on board, to have a successful succession of functions, operations, and information.
And just a quick question on process. So take the vote tomorrow and Prothman gets started tomorrow. Is that, they'll hit the ground running and
yep,
everything will go live. Okay.
Yeah, once we accept the create, post, and fill for the position, we already have a job description that the commissioners have reviewed, commented on, as well as Prothman. They will move forward with a placement in newspapers and advertising, and then the process will begin. So the last item.
This is Diane. I just want to be clear. Do we need to put this on tomorrow's agenda? Or are we good there? Because I know we have the revised non-union pay scale, which we included a county administrator at salary range 47. So I know that piece will be done and it's on the agenda. But the authority to post and fill for county administrator, should we put that on tomorrow?
I believe that is on for tomorrow. What will need to be added to that is the interim appointment.
And that's the other thing I wanted to ask, because yes, it's on there to create the position in the salary resolution. But I wanted to make sure it's clear that we're going to post and fill for county administrator and name Frank as interim effective July 1. Am I correct there?
That sounds right to me.
Okay, so I'll make sure if we need to do an amendment for tomorrow, that happens.
Sounds good.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Last item is the review of the non-represented employee alignment structure. Previously this year, the board had assigned to me to look at the non-represented salary range alignment matrix and analyze that relative our comparators and the statewide salary positions for the non-represented positions. And in that review, the analysis showed that Mason County non-represented employees are generally between 10 and 20% below our comparators in salary scale. So what there was a recommendation made to make an adjustment to our matrix. And that adjustment recommendation is to expand the scale of the matrix. Currently, the matrix has 0 to 5 steps. So in essence, 6 steps. There are steps 0 and 1 with 5% difference between those steps. Step 1 and 2 with 5% difference between those steps. Then 3, 4, and 5 with 2.5% difference between those steps. So what the recommendation here is to split those steps and create a step 2.5% up from 0 and 2.5% up from 1. Then in addition, to add 2 additional steps at the tail end with 1.25% increases, creating a matrix of 10 steps, 1 through 10, each having 2.5% between each step, and the last 2 steps having 1.25% increases between those steps. In addition to that, the recommendation was made to include a longevity clause in our personnel policy that says anybody beginning in their 11th year through 15th year would receive a 1.5% additional increase. Between the 16th and 20th year would receive a 3% additional increase. 21st through the 25th year would receive a 4.5%. And the 26th beyond would receive a 6%. So that the incremental increases would be based on their longevity with the county and would add to their base salary at that point in time. So the request here is to have the board consider these changes as a preliminary modification to the non-represented salary scale matrix so that the county can begin to close the gap between the non-represented salaries and those that comparable counties are paying currently. The longevity matrix is something that's similar to a lot of the CBAs. Most all of them, I can't think of one that doesn't have one, have this longevity matrix. Some of them have dollar amounts rather than percentages, but of the 13, only 2 have dollar amounts. All of them have percentages in a longevity matrix.
All right, commissioners, questions?
I appreciate your work on all of this, Frank. It's been, I think it's been a long time coming. And so I appreciate you listening to me and going forward with this. I think it looks good to me. And I'm glad that we're able to possibly help those that are compressed and that have reached the top of the scale. We've got amazing people here that work in Mason County, and I think that this will help retain them, keep them with us.
Commissioner Schutte?
Yeah, so this has been an issue for quite a while, I think, and it's really one of those things where if you pull on one side, you're pushing on another, and there's a lot of moving parts to figuring out what the range and scale is going to look like. And so I think this is this proposal would provide some meaningful change to that, especially for folks who have been with the county for a long time, and as well as help relieve some issues of compression By no means is this the silver bullet. This is in the past when we've dealt with the salary range and even in some of our collective bargaining agreement works. This is an iterative process and one that I think we work on routinely and is never completely solved. But I think this is a major step in the right direction. And so I appreciate all the work that went into it, and I'm supportive.
Okay, so I agree, and we will be moving forward. What else you got, Frank?
I just wanted to add to that, the recommendation is that the step increases become effective January 1 of 2022. The longevity increase become effective January 1 of 2023.
Yes, that's what I understood.
So that's all I had at the moment. Thank you, commissioners.
Okay, do commissioners have any questions for Frank?
I do not.
Okay.
Frank, but I would like to bring up something.
Yes, please.
So there are some talks coming up, some ideas regarding the juvenile detention center. Frank and I and Tim Whitehead will be meeting with the judges. So I wanted to make sure that everybody knew that that was going on and some of the conversations going forward. Also, along that line, we have a task force that has been meeting for the past, 5, 6 weeks, 4 weeks, 5, 6, I don't know. Time blends together. Coming up with some possible solutions to the homeless crisis that we have in the county and downtown. So the city is working. We're all great members in the task force. We have the city, we have the law enforcement, we have attorneys, we have business owners, and then we have the resources that are available to our homeless folks. So, and also community development, they're in there too. So great people, hoping that we can come up with some solutions.
Any questions or anything, Commissioner Schutte, on that?
Nope.
Okay, I'd like to just pick up real quick on the interview that we had earlier and see where everybody sits. I would like to continue to have conversations and see what we have out there.
So go out for more applications. I don't know. I liked him. But if you feel more comfortable going out, I'd be fine with that as well.
Commissioner Schutte?
Yeah, I have, I thought he interviewed well. I don't have any issues with appointing him. Commissioner Trask, it's your district. If you think there's a better option out there, then that's totally up to you, but I would have no issues appointing him.
Yeah, I would feel comfortable appointing him.
Okay, then let's put it on the agenda, please, and we will move forward. All right, that's all I have. So thank you, Frank. We're going to go ahead and, do you need a second, commissioners?
Sure.
Okay. 39, we'll be back at 10:45. Back, everybody. We are going to move into, we're running way behind schedule today. We're going to move into Public Works. Loretta's, nope, going back. Community Services with Dave Windom. Dave?
Dave's not here today.
Yep, I don't see it. Every time I hear that, I can't help but laugh. I'm old. I keep thinking Cheech and Chong. Dave's not here. Okay, with that, who's going to be speaking for Dave? Keller, you're on. Are you speaking today?
There's three of us speaking, Commissioner.
Okay. I see Lydia.
Alex?
So is there somebody that's representing today, though, your department? Then I'll just take it from here and go. Let's go ahead and start with the first thing on the agenda here. I have Lydia and Abe. Lydia, you want to take it?
Yes, sir. Thank you. So first one I have is our TST funding for non-county operated allocation. So this is our treatment sales tax money that normally a percent goes to the community gap services. We are recommending re-extending, we're actually doing new contracts because they've been extended already. A new 2-year contract for Northwest Resources, the SOS program for $90,461 a year for 2 years of $189.22. And then Olympic and Health and Recovery Services. So that program is the one that works with, Dilma's not the only one in that program. They have a lot of people now that are operating that program. And then Olympic Health and Recovery Services that's the money that's going into the jail to pay for the peer that we put in there to help with mental health and with substance abuse. And that's also a 2-year contract for $76,000. So we're asking the board to move that to an action agenda. And we are still re-looking at some of the other funds. We have a number of proposals we'll be bringing forth to the commissioners in the next month or so of some other thoughts and ideas to do with some funding that would be supporting the services needed in the community around housing, all kinds of things that are gaps in the services right now.
Okay, but right now before us is the moving forward of the contracts with Northwest Resources, Olympic Health, and to move that to the agenda. Commissioners, any questions?
No, I'll just say that this has been well vetted by the Housing and Behavioral Health Advisory Board. They've had a lot of really good discussions, and I appreciate Lydia and Abe and Todd reworking some of this to make it fit a little bit better with what the community's priorities are, and look forward to the other parts that will be coming forward in the next few weeks.
Okay, Commissioner Trask, are you agreeable with moving it forward?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, then we will go forward. Next up, Lydia, you have another one, Community Services, Public Health Update and Edits on Treatment Sales Tax Policies and Procedures.
Correct. So you should have received, I'll start with the resolution. That's on there. Yes, we added it. So there was the resolution 3118 that gave the continuance of the 1/10 our treatment sales tax. We have been looking at that in light of the changes over the past 4 years that have happened of learning, working with this funding, what it can be used for, where it should go, how it works in the community. And so in doing that, we looked over the resolution and the policies and procedures that go along with that, which you should have also seen the updates on that to make the changes that have naturally been kind of happening along the way. And we did this, as Commissioner Schutte said, in conjunction with the Housing and Behavioral Health Board, looking at what changes have happened. So one of the things that we've done is recommending, the major thing is recommending a little bit of a change in the, sorry, I'm trying to get my camera on so I'm not in the dark with you guys. A little bit of a change in the percentage that we're utilizing. It was 60% went to the therapeutic court system and all the departments that help support that. 30% went to the treatment or to the community treatment sales, similar to the ORS and the Northwest Resources that we just talked about. And then 10% for the administrative support of all of these contracts and billing and funding and all of that. So we're recommending a change to move it up to 65% for the And it's not just therapeutic courts, it's as well as all other county operated departments. So hence the jail would be part of this, the work that's going on in the jail. And then some of the programming that we're now starting to do through the health department. And there would be other departments that could possibly be doing some kind of work. So we're kind of broadening that to include, which it sort of did, but it didn't in the policies and the resolution. So we made those changes to try to bring that around. And then there was, Jennifer worked a little bit on some wording on number 3 in the resolution of how the resolution is, or how the budget is determined each year, because that wasn't clear. And she made a couple of other changes as well on number 2 with instead of line item budget department. And that was it. So that's for the resolution. And then similar for the actual policies and procedures. We made some changes on those to fit that, giving a little bit more structure to how we notify and how the process goes to notify the different county departments. We had a real clear process on notifying the contractors, but not for the county departments to submit to us kind of what their expected budget would be so that it's in time to go to the commissioners for the next year's budget. So we added kind of that in there as well.
Oh, you're muted, Randy.
Commissioners, do you see anything in the updates that you have questions or concerns about? Are you okay with moving it forward?
Yeah, again, just to reiterate, this was recommended unanimously by the Housing and Behavioral Health Advisory Board. A lot of thought went into putting this together, and so I'm supportive.
Okay, so we will go ahead and move forward. Before I go on to the next one, Lydia, we're apparently moving on to somebody else. Do you have anything else you wanted to add?
We do have a housing one up too. So
so go ahead and do it.
Okay. So the housing homeless crisis system from 21 to 23, our new budget is coming forth from the HEN grant, and sorry, not just the HEN, the CHG grant and the HEN, so that we can have contracts for our contractees that are listed there. We're still waiting for that. CHG tends to be a little slow, but we have got everything in place and ready to move forward as soon as we get the actual numbers. We have a roundabout of the numbers close, and sometimes a few things change. So we always wait to the last minute till they give us the final, but we have everything ready, and we are asking the commissioners, because we will bring the contracts back to you, but we are asking for approval to send out award letters to them so they can begin to start planning, since it starts July 1 and Commerce is behind.
Okay, commissioners, do you have any issue with sending out award letters? I don't know that you usually need us to approve that, but any heartburn with it, commissioners? Okay, then please send them out.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. All right, do you have anything for Lydia before I move on to somebody else in the office? Hearing none. The next thing that I have up here on my agenda, I still don't see Dave on here, is
Dave's on vacation.
Oh, he's on vacation.
He's
Okay.
out of state.
But he didn't appoint anybody to speak or run it for him? The briefing?
It's kind of somebody who's kind of managing the order of things from your department.
Usually Alex and I just share it. And then Kel does hers upstairs.
Okay, well, this one is to create a county technician, senior accounting technician position in public health to assist with grant accounting and billing. Is there anybody that has this one?
He assigned.
That was me.
That's you, Casey? Go ahead.
Yes. Okay, this is to create, with all the additional grants and everything public health has, and with the grants also comes sub-grants and subcontracts with these. So it's just one grant can add 6 more. And there's been, I've through a lot of emails and everything, there's been a lot of speculation. Well, it's not that much money. But the thing is, with the grants aren't dollar based on how much work goes into them. They're based on a grant. Each grant has work that has to go into it. It's not 3 grants for $10,000 is probably 3 times the work as one for $20,000. So and if the grants fall off in the future, then we'll reevaluate and reduce positions. But as of right now, we have funding to compensate for this, to pay for this position with no additional funding costs to the general expense. So we're asking to put this in place right now or as soon as possible to help out with what our backlog is. And if our grants go down or the work goes down, then we'll have to adjust positions accordingly.
Now, the paper I have in front of me says that there's going to have to be a budget amendment of $33,000 in 2021.
Yes, but we have additional funding to go along with that.
Okay. Another question I have, there's been some questions regarding how many grants, what grants we have. I have listed here at 58. Could you please share with the commission, not this moment, but when we're done, can you send us out a list of the grants?
Well, yes, I can. And if that were to say grants and subcontracts, it would be that high. If that makes sense. So the grants are the money we receive. The subcontracts are the money that we are letting other people, which have to be followed just like our grants.
Okay, so the grant level is not, because to us grants mean money in. So
right.
And ones you're and how you are administering them. But if you get a grant in and you're administering the grant, that still counts as one.
Correct.
So I'd like to see exactly how many we actually have going in and then going out.
Okay.
Commissioners?
So this is oh, sorry. So if this was if it's just a temporary position, can we sub out? I mean, if you're asking, because it sounds like you're just asking for temporary help. So if this is just a temporary help, can we not? Because I know we've done this in the past. Is asked for a CPA to come in and help with things. So a sub, so 1099 or something like that.
And I believe there was an offer. I believe there was an offer from Community or Support Services to help you to get a CPA assistance into your department. I thought it was declined.
I do not know about that, but I know we have funding for this position through 2022, through the end of 2022, if it's allowed.
Okay. Mr. Schutte.
Yeah, I'm actually supportive of this. I think we fail ourselves quite a bit here when I think we shortchange ourselves when it comes to grant management in a lot of cases, and especially I think we did it to Support Services last year with CARES Act, and I think we have the potential of doing it again with the rescue plan and all the other grants where I don't think we're as thoughtful as we could be on the administrative allowances that these grants provide us. And so if there's a way to support the work and make it flow better, not just internally, but for the people that we're granting money out to, I think that's a win for the county. So I'm supportive of it. I get that there might be some other concerns that you need to run down, commissioners, but I just think we need to be a little bit more thoughtful about how we approach the administrative allowances that come with all the grants that we're managing.
And I myself would be still supportive, but I would need to see that it is put into a position that is a temporary position that goes with the grant. So it's something that would be looked at, yearly or budget-wise, but specifically identified as grant supported. If we're hiring based on grants, I want to make sure that we are covering them based on grants from the future. That's my 2 cents. So where are we at with this completely? First of all, Jennifer, I saw you wanted to speak. Is there something you'd like to add, please?
Yes, thank you, Commissioner. I'm sorry that I interrupted you earlier. I just wanted to add that I agree with Commissioner Trask that using the outside CPA that we already utilize within our county, that would be my recommendation, that we start with that first. We already have $16,000 budgeted in non-departmental, and that is one of the services that they do, is come around and help help departments kind of streamline and, you know, give any assistance that might be needed. So that would be my recommendation for a place to start.
And Alex, you're our department head down there, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. I see you have shown your face. Do you have a comment on this you'd like to add?
Yeah, I don't know about a department head, but
well,
yeah, David tasked Casey for handling this specific item. But yeah, I think Lydia and I can both speak to just the need that our department has. You know, I've watched throughout the past couple of weeks, you know, a few different departments, including my own, you know, come to you guys talking about extra work here, there, and the need for extra staffing to handle that work. And I think this is one that's very similar to that. The amount of grants and contracts that we're managing, it's just exceeding the amount of staffing that we have to handle it. It's something that I know Dave has been talking about. I don't know if he's had specific briefings for it, but I know he's been talking with the commission and Frank on this for some time. So I guess if there are hesitations on this, just, you know, be specific for us so we can work on addressing those barriers and what's holding back on it.
Well, again, I know one of mine is just making sure that if it's grant supported, that it's grant connected. Frank, would you mind weighing in from the HR aspect of this?
No, absolutely not. Thank you, Commissioner. One of the things that we looked at from HR's perspective is relating the scope of responsibilities of the department, finance manager, and the accounting functions as it relates to public works, finance manager and their accounting responsibilities, and the sheriff's office. And when you equate the numbers of payroll responsible for the accounting department, personnel, staffing that's within that department, numbers of grants, especially within public works, come close to the number of grants that public health is currently looking at, numbers of contracts, and then also look at the dollars that are within the budget of public health relative the dollars that the sheriff's office manages and the dollars that the public works manages. The scope of responsibility is relatively the same, one a little higher, one a little lower. But I think part of the difficulty that they may have there is that public health is not on the same program that the county is on, specifically Munis. And it would help public health to be able to simplify their process by doing a lean review of what they do and why they do it. That is a process and it takes some time, and maybe simplify or make their process a little more efficient than it currently is. But it's grant funded, and the analysis of if the position goes away after the grant goes away may weigh heavier than the scope of responsibility, which is to say currently, even with these extra grants, the finance manager in public health manages about the same scope of responsibility that the finance manager in the sheriff's office and the finance manager in public works manages.
So did I just hear, I want to clarify that what I heard, your analysis changes a little bit more to the supportive if it is connected to the grant and the grant, maybe a term or something?
Yes, it might be supportive if it's tied directly to the funding through the grant, albeit I still think that the scope of responsibility within that department is where the others are currently, and we would need to potentially face the same request from the other two departments.
Now, on that one, I thought about that a lot because, you know, no matter what, there's always the Me Too whenever we do anything. But if we're talking about a situation where funds are there available specifically to be utilized for something like that, that is the difference between the other departments and this request. So I still,
That is true.
go ahead.
I'm sorry, that is true. And if we also want to utilize the lien process, the state auditor's office has indicated that they may have time available for that process to move forward towards the end of this year.
So perhaps we can do this as a 1-year sunset.
And then go through a lien process.
No, but I mean, and then we also come through, but you know, we go through the process of re-upping it, showing that it has a financial connection or not at that year.
Yes.
What do you think of those ideas, commissioners?
So would this position is grant funded?
Correct.
So what if, I'm gonna toss this out there. So if we approve the position and have you go through the lien process, you know me, I'm a fan of lien because it helps us get our systems down to where they're very effective and we're getting the biggest bang for our buck or for the taxpayers' buck. Would that be an option or a possibility?
Well, I think
For us, oops.
Well, I think we're already requesting that, aren't we, of them to go through that lien process, regardless of what we do here. I'd still like to see that lien process looked at.
I don't know that we formally requested, but I think it's a great idea.
I have not formally requested it yet. All I did was get some indication from the state auditors as to their availability towards the end of the year.
We need to have that department head do that request, though. Jennifer, you were speaking?
Yes, so our goal is to get all of the departments onto Munis, and I think that that would probably help the health department out a lot in the timing of their grant billing, things like that. And along those lines, is this position going to be a temporary position then? Will that be worded in there?
Well, I think that's what we're discussing. Commissioner Schutte?
Yeah, you know, I think, you know, that part of it might be a process problem. Part of it, though, I think is also a volume issue. And, you know, just for an example, between the Emergency Rental Assistance Program and the Treasury Rental Assistance Program, you know, we've seen, you know, several $1 million come through community services that normally wouldn't have otherwise.
Yeah.
And again, that's the point that I'm trying to make here is we could streamline the process until the cows come home, and that's fantastic. We should be doing that. But we also need to figure out how we take advantage of that to build capacity within the department in order to handle the volume. And, you know, that is, I think, what's also an important conversation that can't be lost here. And it's specific to this right now, but I think more broadly, you know, when we are seeing influxes in grant funding, how do we scale up to meet the requirements internally so that it makes things work better? Not just so staff internally can track the grants and make sure that they're on top of what the requirements are for us, but also, you know, making it work better for our community partners who are the ones that are, you know, receiving and distributing the grant money out into the community. And so it's a both and for me. If the way to get this to move is to make it temporary and to tack on a lien, you know, review of it, I'm fine with that. I think everybody over in the public health, environmental health, and upstairs in building and planning all understand that they're in large part tied to grants and fee revenue. I don't think that's anything that's out of line with what their reality is, for better or worse anyway. So I'm fine with that. You know, but we need to be really thoughtful about how we handle the increases in volume. And this might be a blip. This might be a once in a generation issue that we have to solve and things normalize here in the next couple of years. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't be taking advantage of building capacity within the department to address it now.
Okay. So I'm going to ask a question of the commission. I'm going to separate out the one, though, on the temporary aspect. maybe, to discuss maybe just 1 year. I would like to see the lien process go through, but I don't think it'd be appropriate for us to predicate it on having that lien process at this point, especially without the director here. So I guess the question comes down to the options: no, contract out with the CPA, temporary 1 year, or full-time FTE position created.
Can I just ask a clarifying question real quick before
Please.
What would we get from the outside CPA that would help manage volume?
You would get process. They would help with the process. They would help with grant billings. Basically anything that we would ask them to do. Plus, they have the expertise to do that. Whereas somebody coming in from the outside might not. They would just be, trained in the current process that's in the health department, which might be just fine. But the outside CPA is going to have ideas on how to streamline and do things possibly a little bit better.
So could they do a lien review? Or a version of a lien review and have them do that instead of waiting for the state?
I can ask and get back to you on that.
Okay. So again, the one, unless you guys have a hybrid that I don't see, there's a no, there's contract out, temporary position for 1 year, basically to show that's grant funded and the like after the year is over, full-time FTE position created.
So I'll go with the temporary for 1 year as we evaluate things.
Commissioner Trask?
I see this as a benefit also. Sorry, I'm looking at two screens here. The more I think about it, the more I like it, because we're also talking about succession planning. And Casey, I don't want to see you get run over by a bus, but what if, there's so many possibilities I could get hit by a bus. I hope not, because it would be painful, but I do see this as a benefit the more I think about it. And getting somebody in there to help you, Casey. Grants are time consuming, and working on a succession plan as well sounds really good to me.
So which one of the options? I'm sorry, I didn't understand. No, contract, temporary 1 year, full-time FTE position.
Let's go temporary 1 year.
Okay. Then I think we have the creation of the position temporary for 1 year for a revisit. Within that 1 year, if I'm not mistaken, we're hoping that we will see some type of lien process that occurs. We will also hopefully shift over to the munis. That's our total goal for everybody. And with that, it'll be created and just revisited at that time. Does that pretty much wrap it up, commissioners? Okay. Casey, you heard the discussions. Do we understand what the commission is requesting?
It's okay, authorized for a temporary 1 year position tied to grants.
Yes.
Or tied to supporting grants.
And it doesn't necessarily mean that position goes away, but we will revisit it to make that decision in 1 year, most likely based on a lien review, switch over to munis, and where we're sitting at that time in 1 year with the grants. Was that?
Okay, thank you very much, Commissioner.
Yep. Is that what you understand also, commissioners? Did I understand it correctly?
That sounds about right to me.
All right, Frank, okay, we're good on that one. All right. What else do we have? Does anybody have anything else from that side of the pond over there? Hearing none. Commissioners, do you have any questions for any of the staff there?
No, thank you guys for meeting.
All right, thank you very much, everybody. We're going to go ahead and move into Public Works. Loretta Swanson, please.
Morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
We've got a notification of a news release for our Solid Waste Advisory Committee, and that we would like to announce.
Okay, well, you going to do it tomorrow?
Yes, please.
Okay.
And commissioners, I don't have it listed here as a briefing item, but we also have another news release that we would like to read coming up. It actually says July 6th. This is for advising of the upcoming Moto America item. Oh, excuse me, I'm looking at the solid waste news release, but we also have one that we're planning to read tomorrow about the Moto America event and the potential for some traffic impacts on Eels Hill Road.
Any objections to putting that on tomorrow's agenda, commissioners?
None at all.
Nope. Okay. What else you got, Loretta?
Okay, next up, Richard's got a Solid Waste Advisory Committee membership appointment recommendation. 2 recommendations, actually.
2. Better than 1.
That's right.
Well, I've been beating the bushes trying to get more SWAC members, as we have a very depleted SWAC members or SWAC committee, and I'm looking to get it a little more balanced. I had my efforts were fruitful. I have 2 applicants, excuse me, one representing agriculture from the Wazoo Extension Office, and the other representing the Squaxin Island tribe.
I'm comfortable with putting those on. Any comments, commissioners? You guys comfortable?
Good with me.
Okay, next.
Great, thank you, commissioners. Next up, as part of our gravel road conversion program, we need to update some speed limit signage, and Mike's got that briefing for you.
Good morning, commissioners. Recently, we've converted about 0.2 of a mile of Snyder Road from gravel to asphalt. The engineering and maintenance staff did a great job working together on that. So now the road is not considered a primitive road, and so therefore it has to be established a speed limit. So we would like to set a public hearing to do that.
Okay, I see one head. I got 2 head nods, so we're good to go.
Great.
Great. Thanks, commissioners.
Thank you.
And other than that, maybe just a quickie update that to let you know we're continuing smoke testing out at in Allen, the community of Allen, and that's been going well so far.
What have we found?
We've found some potential sources for inflow and infiltration that we'll be following up on.
So just interesting enough, the water went out this weekend and automatically everybody assumed it was part of that. So I was getting phone calls and we had nothing to do with the water going out in Lakeland Village, correct?
That is correct.
I'm good. Somehow I tried to explain to them that our sewer line is not connected to the water line.
Let's hope. We haven't found that yet, Commissioner. And then also some great news. Richard is uploading new imagery for our GIS. And so that is exciting. We can actually zoom in tight and see some non-grainy images. So hopefully everyone will enjoy that new imagery here coming out in the next week or so. And the scale, I believe, out at the solid waste facility, we made that transfer successfully, and life is working wonderful out there at the Eels Hill facility with the new scale. And certainly want to compliment Kevin and his crew and Richard for a really nice, smooth transition. That came across flawlessly. So nice work to that team. And then last of all, Mike's got a quickie update on our chip seal program. So Mike, if you want to hit that, and Richard, sorry if I'm missing out on some shout outs, but so feel free to jump in also.
No, we're good. Thank you.
Currently, this week, we're working on chip sealing McEwing Prairie Road. We recently widened the shoulders and paved them. Now we're going to chip seal the road surface itself and leave the shoulders asphalt. We are also working up at Belfair Tahuya on some shoulder widening, straightening that up. So when we chip seal the road, we'll get the shoulders too. And we're also working on another gravel road conversion of Boyer Road. Just started this week to start straightening that up and actually chip seal that road. We just opened bids last week for Bear Creek Dewato Clear Zone project. We had 5 bidders. We had a spread from anywhere from 568,000 to 878,000. So quite a range. The low bid was 568. Road Dart Construction out of Auburn is the one we're going to probably award the project to. This project is between, I believe it's between Effendale Pass and Blacksmith Road. And basically it's going to be repairing some of the shoulders, widening some of that, cutting slope bakes back and improving line of sight. So the other thing notable is we went out to bid for some concrete box culverts for Dayton Highland and for Upper Uncle John's projects that we're going to construct this year. Unfortunately, we did not get any bids for those. We had the delivery dates set for mid-August, and talking to a couple of the contractors that usually bid on them, they said that they couldn't make that date. So we're going back out to bid. We're changing the date to September 24th. That gives us about a week before fisheries window closes. So it'll be close, but we're going to, if this is the only way we're going to get those constructed this year, then that's what we're going to try to accomplish. That's it for me.
Commissioners, there's been a bit of a backlog, as you might imagine, on construction projects. And then also DOT is really pumping out their fish barrier projects as well. So we might be kind of in a jam and being able to deliver our projects as well, just in terms of securing materials and supplies and contractors. So we continue to push and figure out every advantage we can to keep our projects moving forward.
Okay. You have anything else for us, Loretta?
That is about it. Just we've got the hearing tomorrow about road approach permits, and we've got a hearings examiner item for a road vacation on Wednesday. And that's all I have.
Commissioners, do you have anything for Loretta?
I'm looking forward to our road trip tomorrow.
Me too. Lots of things happening to see.
Loretta, I have a few things real quick. Just a reminder, the 20-mile-per-hour Sand Hill.
Yes, we spoke about that last Friday, Commissioner.
Okay. Are we going to have it fixed, or is it going to take some work, or what do we got going?
I don't know exactly what Dave and Mike's plan is, but we definitely relayed the concern, or I relayed the concern, and I'll follow up with you later today about that.
And also, Mr. Collins, would you mind giving me a call a little later? I have a citizen needs your help or our help regarding a fence on 106 and trying to work with the state. And Richard, I have a citizen calling me from the Lions Club that has been trying to get a hold of you to get some assistance. Could you please call me so we can discuss that as well? That's all I have. So with that, we will go ahead and move on to our next one. Okay, Loretta? We good? Okay. All right, guys, have a great day. Next up, District Court, Judge Steele and Patsy Robinson. We're sorry, Your Honor, that we're running so late and we still have quite a bit to do. I see you have one here that's informational. Hopefully we can do that one in short form at the end. So the first one seems to be self-explanatory to me. Maybe commissioners have questions, but I'm in favor of receiving the money.
Yeah, I was just going to quickly let you know that they're due to some courts not getting involved in the interpreter program. There was a 35% increase to the courts that are participating. So that's where that's coming from.
We okay with putting that on the agenda moving forward?
Good with me.
Okay, we're good. What do you got on the other one?
The other one is I really want to make sure you guys are aware that the courts of limited jurisdiction AOC is moving forward with a new case management system. I'm sure if you recall, when the clerk's office went through this process onto Odyssey, we are now moving towards the district courts and municipal courts moving into Odyssey as well. They are implementing the program in phases. We, as Mason County, is phase 4. We're slated to go on Odyssey not until, I believe, late 2024, 2025, going on Odyssey. However, they are implementing the e-filing effective this year. And that's more of informational. I do not know at this point if there is any impact at all budget-wise. They haven't really been able to tell me. We do have scanners, we do have that kind of stuff. Whether they are adequate enough to do what we need to do, I will find out. But I wanted to let you know that we are actually moving to something more than a DOS case management system.
One issue on that, and this is more just my concerns, is I have yet to be told a good solid, here's the basis of the court's authority to impose a set of local rule requiring how the fees that are going to be expected courts to charge. Basically it's set up, instead of like doing a subscription, you pay $5 per quote envelope. Envelope mean a batch of documents, whether it's one document, several documents together, is a $5 fee. And most of the feedback I received back from when I've asked other judges and what have you is, well, here's our model local rule we would like everybody to do. My concern is, although we're gearing up to do this, but my concern is that there is a risk that we could find ourselves in a position where we charge a fee. Some enterprising attorney says you don't have any authority, local court, to impose such fees. The fees have already been forwarded on to the Tyler company, which is providing the technology and all that for it, so that we could possibly, this is just me maybe worrying more than I should, but I have discussions with other judges as well, that all of a sudden be told you never had the authority to do this in the first place. So I do have some concerns about that. Thus far have not been satisfied. But so that is going to be an issue I think we may have to deal with. And I think that there's some recognition of that on OAC, because initially the local rule they wanted us to adopt required all filings, but now for all criminal cases, all filings except public defender and other county attorneys. But now it's turning all criminal cases, not required, but strongly encouraged to utilize the electronic system.
Are you, Your Honor, are you intending to challenge it at all, or is that just an informational statement as well?
That's more an informational statement. I think it's up to an aggrieved attorney to challenge it. I'm not going to name names, but I can think of at least one person who would not hesitate to challenge it. And I think I referred to him before as someone who had the temerity to do his job. And it may come to nothing. I mean, but I do have some concerns about it. I just want to let you know that if we were ever told we have to disgorge the fees we charge, and we can't just say, okay, we'll just collect them and pay them back, because Tyler's not going to have to reimburse anything. They're being paid for the service. Okay. That's just a way that OAC came up with a way to pay for the, I believe they told me the support, like the technical support and running the service statewide, as opposed to installing it, but that part I'm not sure about.
Okay. Commissioners, do you have any questions for Patsy or Judge Steele?
No.
Not at this time.
All right. Thank you, guys. We appreciate you.
Thank you. Hope I didn't put you to sleep.
Nope. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye. Okay. Next up, we have a demonstration of the R0 Arc UV light disinfectant machine from Capital Business Machines, Kyle. Can you hear me out there, Kyle?
Oh yeah. How's everything going?
We're doing great. You're up.
All right. Thank you. So I got Casey here. He's part owner of Capital Business Machines. He's kind of the brains of our new product, R0. So here, I want to pull up
Can you guys see us?
Yes, we can.
All right, yeah. So I just want, can I have 30 seconds?
Yes.
All right, I just want to get something up here real fast.
But we're taking it off of the time that we're allotting you, you know.
I know, that's why I'm sweating. Right on. So you know, this is different. I've never done one of these before. But where's the camera at?
You're standing right in front of it. You're looking right at us right now.
Oh, awesome.
And just so you know, we for the most part we're hoping to see what it looks like, how it works. Just a brief demonstration to show us the machine.
All right, thank you. Yeah. So Capital Business Machines. I'm not sure if you guys know who we are. We've been doing business with the county probably since 1952. We're located right in Olympia. My brother Derek and we bought Capital Business Machines 8 months ago, and so and we've worked there for the last 26 years. So this is a product that I'm very proud of. It took me 10 months to actually of research to find it, and it's a beautifully designed product that from the products I've taken a look at in the past. It's manufactured right in California, right in San Jose. The machine was actually a product of the same guys that worked on Tesla and SpaceX, and another gentleman named Eli, who wanted to be a part of the solution when we all were struggling to figure out how we're gonna have sustainable devices like this that are not going to be consuming like 2,000 gallons of pesticides and stuff like that to disinfect our areas with. So this unit right here is the best unit ever tested by the DoD lab in Missoula, Montana. It tested 120% better than any of the medical grade UVC units that are on the market to date. It's the screen right here. I'm not sure, you probably can't see the little screen right here, but it's been designed as easy to use as a microwave oven. So if you can use a microwave oven, you can use this device. And it's really simple to use. It's you got it. So Kevin.
Yes.
So do you just want me to cut right to the chase and do a demo? I mean, or Randy? What do you guys want? How do you guys want me to do this?
Yes, please do a demo. Show us what we're looking at real quick, and we'll have a couple of questions for you.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. I'll make the old guy bend over here. So these devices have a little dashboard on them, and so what that allows is if you're the guy in the county that's making sure everything's being disinfected and sanitized, you have a little dashboard so you can see real time which rooms are being disinfected, and so also for employees when they come back, they can have that peace of mind that, oh, man, my office was taken care of last night, and so I can come into an office that is basically we could do surgery in. So basically it takes the pathogen levels down to 0. And so with this device in 1,000 square feet, it can basically it'll take care of everything, like all mold, bacteria, viruses, even like bed bugs and lice. So, in a very short time. So the default timer is 7 minutes on it, and once you push play, what it's going to do is it's going to give us a countdown timer, and we're going to be able to exit the room. And it's safe to be around electronics, so if you want to leave your phone in here, it'll disinfect your phone for you. Safe to be around food, so if you have food, you're good too.
Can we explain to them that that was probably good enough? They can come back in the room? Interesting. What were some of the concerns we had, commissioners? I know we were looking at price, but at the same time, if it's effective, what concerns do we have on this item?
Minor price and whether or not it would be used effectively.
So you can see as I came into your office, it automatically turned off. So there's 4 long range sensors on the top of the device, so that if a child or somebody that wasn't supposed to be in the room when we're running this device, because UVC light is harmful to skin and eyes, and so we want this device to turn off if anybody enters the room. And if somebody came in, you can see that this cycle was paused, and there's 6 minutes and 11 seconds left, and then we just could hit start again and finish the cycle.
Okay. A couple of questions that I have automatically is, you just answered one of them, the effect on humans in the room, one of them, and I understand that. The next question I have is, since it's UV light, does it only work in line of sight?
Okay, so in a room, right? So it's gonna disinfect all the air, anything that's airborne, and that's most of the viruses and stuff like that. As we know, it's gonna get all that, and then it's gonna get all the surfaces, but it's not gonna get underneath like your desk and stuff, right? But it'll get like all up in this area. But yeah, so line of sight, it's light, light work bends and stuff like that.
Yeah, light bends,
Desktops, yeah.
Bends and reflects, so it still does get underneath stuff, but just not as good as plain sight.
Okay.
Yep.
And you said it handles 1,000 square feet. If I'm in a 2,000 square foot building, can I set it twice on different sides of the room?
Yeah, that's a good way of doing it. You wouldn't have to run it as long if you did it that way. It can actually do up to 2,400 square feet in 11 minutes. 3,400. Yep.
I didn't hear what I didn't response.
3,400 square feet in 11 minutes?
Yep.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, I got you. All right, commissioners, couple questions?
Yeah, thanks for the demonstration. How mobile is it? So, I mean, obviously we're a little bit of a spread out campus. How easy is it to transport?
Yeah, Kevin, that's a great question. So it's built with that in mind. It has 4-inch locking casters on the bottom, and they wheel really well. So we unload it across the street and just kind of wheel it across the parking lot. All of the weight is done at the base of the unit. It's not real tippy. You really gotta get a hold of it. So it's really solid to roll around. So one of these you can deploy in a building and wheel it around, get across the street or whatever. It's very mobile.
What's the projected lifespan of a unit?
Yeah, so the bulbs have a lifespan of 16,000 hours, and they're very durable machines. They're made out of airplane aluminum. So I mean, if you can take a bang, you can hit them, and they're not going to break bulbs and stuff. But if you have us maintain it, I see it last at least 10 years.
How much of a discount are you going to give us for the one you just beat up?
Well, this is mine. Look at yours. Good question.
Kevin, do you have any more questions?
I don't know. That's all for right now.
Commissioner Trask?
I don't have any questions at this time.
So everything that we're, is anybody familiar with UVC technology for disinfecting?
Yes.
Randy's nodding. Kevin, Sharon. Okay, awesome. And so I knew nothing like 10 months ago. I've never even heard of it. And the first time I was watching YouTube, a TED Talk, and they're talking about it. And I just was like, no, this can't be real. and that's when I started doing all the research and stuff. And all products are not created equal. Everything that we talked today, we'll send you guys as a third party lab verified. That was done by the DoD lab in Missoula, Montana. So it'll show you, yeah, we nuked the coronavirus, but we also killed the tough stuff too. You know, your staph, your MRSA, your E. coli, what was the other one? C. difficile. Yeah, C. difficile. So all of the bad stuff with that. Real good.
Just kind of talk how North Mason's using it.
Oh yeah, so do you guys, North Mason School District?
I'm aware, yeah.
Okay, so Ashley and Joan over there, they deployed eight of these units to disinfect all their classrooms. So they're not using any of the sprays and all that other stuff, all the chemicals that we're trying to pump into buildings to disinfect them and create all these little super bugs. So they're actually just using the UVC light, which is sustainable out there.
And kind of how their process, how they're using it is they're going, using their existing janitorial staff, and they'll go and sweep and dust and all that. And then they'll pull this in when they're done, set the cycle, click play, and then go clean the next room. And then once the cycle's done and they're done cleaning the next room, they push this in, click play, and they're just going throughout the whole school to disinfect all their rooms and clean all their rooms. So they don't need to hire any additional janitors or.
They're very happy with it. I was discussing it with them.
Oh, okay, nice, yeah. Nice. And have you guys seen the Dr. Phil video? Oh, let me go play that real fast for you.
There's no need to do that because we're not going to be able to see that.
Oh, okay, all right. So yeah. So Dr. Phil, who and most people know, he's utilizing one of this to disinfect his studio, and he's got a short video, YouTube video on it.
We'll send that your way.
Yeah. And then in the classrooms too, because they're also using this unit right here to sanitize and disinfect the air. So you have your filters and stuff, and the filters your MERV 13 or 15, what that does is it captures all the particles like allergens and stuff like that. But it's just blowing back out all of your viruses and bacteria and stuff. This unit right here, what that does is we utilize this at night, and then this during the day takes care of anything that's airborne. And this right here uses UVC light and has a chamber in it, and so it sucks the air in, and then disinfects the air and pushes out nice, sanitized, disinfected air. So all day long, as you guys are meeting, like in a room like this, and we're all talking and stuff like that, well, the viral load, if we have a unit like this, is going to go up, 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 and up. So we start really, really low because we run the R0, and then throughout the day, if we don't run something like this, it kind of gradually gets higher and higher and higher. We run this unit during the day in the room, and it'll keep the viral load of that room very, very minimal. And so what you're going to find is, like, not only you're not going to get any viruses passed around throughout the county, but you're also not going to get your traditional colds and flus passed around the county also.
Safe on computers.
Oh, yeah.
Commissioner shooting unmuted himself. Commissioner?
Yeah, so just a quick question on that second unit. Is that all included in the cost of the? No. Or is that an ad?
Yeah, these are two separate units, and so North Mason bought eight of those and 42 of these.
Yep.
Okay. And can they be used separately? So like room of smaller units, would they be effective, or do you need to get both together?
Both together is the way to go.
Now, the one only is the ultraviolet light, the other one is a filtering system, right?
Correct. Yeah, this one right here is going to get all the surfaces in the air in the evening as your custodial staff goes around, like Kyle was saying. I'm sorry.
Are those noisy? Is there?
These ones?
Yeah.
I can run it. They're pretty quiet. I mean, you could have it in here. You can run it during my presentations.
So commissioners, do we have any other questions for them?
I think I'm good for right now. Thank you.
All right, we'd like to thank you guys for coming and showing us this. Commissioners, you want to continue with this discussion now or have it scheduled for our next briefing for a decision point?
I'd like to view the videos that they send and also see a price sheet.
Nice.
Okay, so I'd like to ask Ross, could you please bring it back for our next briefing on Monday, along with making sure that we get all those videos and the price sheet sent to us again?
Yes, sir. Thanks, guys.
Thank you guys very much. We appreciate you coming and showing it to us. It's very impressive. As I said, I've heard some good things about it from North Mason. So
Right on. And also the hospital, they're actively in the process of buying a bunch of these too.
wonderful.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you again.
Yeah.
All right, commissioners, that brings us to the end of our agenda today. Is there any commissioner discussion?
Commissioners, this is Diane. I have one thing to add.
Please.
We received a request from the backcountry hunters and anglers for a no objection letter on a special occasion liquor license. They're holding an event up in Belfair this weekend, June 26th. So in order to get their permit, since it's so late in the process, they need a letter from the commissioners. So I'd like to place that letter of no objection on tomorrow's agenda.
I'm good with that and have no objection, commissioners.
Sounds good.
Okay, make it happen.
Thank you.
All right, hearing nothing else, I will entertain a motion.
Well, we're going to be back at 1, right?
Yes.
So just
I've got my chemo. I just hope that I'll be back in time. If not, which Commissioner Trask or no, Commissioner Schutte, are you the vice chair?
Yeah.
So if I get back late, please start us up, okay?
Will do.
All right. Did I get a motion?
Move we recess until 1 o'clock.
I'll second.
Okay. Well, hearing no objection, we are recessed. Thank you, everybody.